Yeah, that's because he goes off the river and goes into a restaurant, drives into a restaurant, and so wood just sliced my face open. So went off to the hospital, got stitched up. But playing that role, you will get hurt.
He was James Bond for a generation. The guy had this ridiculously perfect hair, a sly little smirk that could probably charm anyone, and this cool, effortless vibe that made him seem like he was born to wear a tux. For a lot of people, it didn't even feel like acting. It seemed like he was James Bond, and watching him, you almost believed spies could look that sharp while saving the world. These days, though, at 71, Pierce Brosnan's life sometimes gets talked about like it's full of tragedy, which feels so different from that image of suave confidence we all remember. This is the story of Pierce Brosnan. The boy left behind. Pierce Brendan Brosnan was born on May 16, 1953, in Drogheda, County Louth, Ireland. His early years weren't exactly easy. His dad, Thomas, left when Pierce was still a baby, and by the time he was 4, his mother, May, had to move to London for work as a nurse. That meant Pierce stayed behind in Ireland with his grandparents. He's spoken about how those years in Drogheda stuck with him. The coal fires, the sound of church bells, little details that still bring him back to childhood. It was a time that felt steady in some ways, but also lonely. While other kids were running into their parents' arms after school, he often felt like he was on the outside looking in. That sense of missing out on family closeness is something he carried with him, and it later made him deeply value loyalty and togetherness. When he was 11, he finally moved to London to live with his mother and her new husband, William Carmichael. Adjusting wasn't easy. His Irish accent made him a target for teasing, and he had to learn to stand up for himself. Sometimes with humor, sometimes with his fists. Around that time, drawing became a real outlet for him, a way to express feelings he didn't quite have the words for. And then there was the day he went to see Goldfinger. That trip to the cinema lit a spark in him. It wasn't just about enjoying a film. It was the moment he realized he wanted to act, to step into other people's lives and tell stories. More than anything, he wanted to build the kind of connection and stability he had longed for as a boy. The long climb up. Pierce left school at 16 and, through a bit of charm, got himself into a commercial art course. To pay the bills, he spent nights scrubbing pots in a pub and mornings painting walls in hospitals. It was steady work, but it wasn't what he really wanted. Then one evening, a coworker mentioned a local theater group. Pierce showed up and started helping out with set building, perfectly happy, just being near the world of theater. But as he stood backstage and saw how much applause the actors received compared to the set crew, something clicked. He realized where the energy and the impact really was. He gave acting a try, auditioned, and got a part. That was enough for him. He left the pub job, put aside painting for good, and decided to follow the path he'd dreamed about since watching Goldfinger. In 1973, that determination got him accepted into the Drama Centre London, a respected and demanding training ground for actors. Not everyone believed in him, though. Some of his teachers thought his good looks and height might hold him back from serious roles. Instead of letting that discourage him, Pierce pushed himself even harder, eager to prove there was real substance behind the appearance. By 1982, the effort was paying off. He landed Remington Steele, playing a suave detective who quickly became a hit with audiences in America. The show ran for 5 seasons and firmly established him as a leading man. It also gave him the means to do something deeply personal. He was able to fly his mother back to Ireland in first class, a symbolic way of giving back after all those years apart. Around that same time, his personal life took a major turn too. He got a call from actress Cassandra asking to meet for lunch. That meeting would lead to a relationship that became central to his life, full of love and, later, profound loss. Love, marriage, and the first crack. Cassandra Harris was an Australian-born actress with a magnetic presence, and by the time Pierce met her, she'd already appeared in For Your Eyes Only as a Bond girl. When she walked into the restaurant for their first lunch, Pierce was immediately taken with her. He later said she had a kind of light about her, something that made him feel safe in a way he hadn't experienced before. Cassandra was also a mother to 2 children, Charlotte and Chris. For Pierce, who had grown up with so much absence, the chance to build a family meant everything. They got married in 1980, and he didn't just become Cassandra's husband. He embraced her children wholeheartedly, eventually adopting them as his own. It was a role he threw himself into with the same devotion he'd always longed to receive as a boy. When Remington Steele ended in 1987, Pierce Brosnan's career entered a period of uncertainty. Roles didn't come as quickly as he hoped, and the family moved between Los Angeles and Ireland as he pursued new opportunities. Amidst the ups and downs, their son Sean was born in 1983, bringing a new sense of joy and grounding to their lives. Pierce embraced fatherhood wholeheartedly, often juggling auditions with diaper duty, and arriving at casting calls with a diaper bag slung over his shoulder. Cassandra had always believed Pierce was meant to be James Bond. Years earlier, she'd even introduced him to producer Albert Broccoli, planting a seed for what would eventually become his most famous role. But life had other plans first. In 1987, Cassandra was diagnosed with ovarian cancer. She faced it with remarkable courage, and Pierce was with her through every part of the journey. Cassandra's illness had been especially painful because it was the same disease that had claimed her mother's life years earlier. Knowing there was a hereditary link made the diagnosis even harder to bear. Pierce, who had just begun reaching the heights of his career, didn't hesitate. He dropped everything to focus on her care. He arranged for the best doctors and hospitals, doing everything in his power to hold on to the woman who had been his anchor. Sadly, she passed away in 1991, leaving behind not only her children and Pierce, but also an enduring sense of love and encouragement that never left him. Just a few years later, in 1994, the call finally came. Golden Eye. After years of waiting and setbacks, Pierce was officially James Bond. It was the career breakthrough he had dreamed of, though bittersweet without Cassandra by his side. Friends often said she would have treated it like her own triumph, probably taping the variety cover to the fridge and teasing him with, "See, darling?" All those years we waited were just rehearsal. Even in her absence, her faith in him shaped how he stepped into that iconic role. The second funeral. After Cassandra's passing in 1991, Pierce's life shifted dramatically. He was suddenly a single father, responsible for raising Charlotte and Christopher. It was a role he stepped into with determination, often describing fatherhood as both his greatest responsibility and his greatest joy. Even as his acting career began to demand more of him, his children remained the center of his world. Around that time, Pierce's career was really taking off. GoldenEye had brought James Bond back into the spotlight and introduced the character to a whole new generation of fans. And Pierce didn't just stop there. Over the next several years, he went on to play Bond again in Tomorrow Never Dies, The World Is Not Enough, and Die Another Day, each time building on that image of the charming, sophisticated secret agent. Those Bond films weren't just big hits. They also helped him establish a solid reputation in Hollywood and gave him the chance to take on a variety of other roles, showing he could handle more than just the tuxedo. During that period, he appeared in movies like Dante's Peak, The Thomas Crown Affair, and The Tailor of Panama, proving he could stretch into different kinds of characters while still keeping that signature charisma. At the same time, his personal life was quietly settling into a meaningful rhythm. In 1994, while in Hawaii, he met journalist and author Keely Shea Smith, and the connection between them grew quickly. Over time, she became not just his partner, but also a kind of anchor in his life. They built a family together, welcoming 2 sons, Dylan in 1997 and Paris in 2001, and created a lively, loving home where family life was at the center. In 2001, they got married at Ashford Castle in Ireland, a ceremony that reflected both Pierce's appreciation for his roots and the sense of history and beauty he wanted to surround such an important moment with. For Pierce, being a father was always a big part of who he was. He was often spotted at school events with his kids or taking walks on the beach, and he frequently talked about how his family gave him a sense of purpose and grounding that went beyond anything fame could offer. However, tragedy found its way back into his life. Charlotte, his daughter with Cassandra, had grown into a woman much like her mother, spirited, determined, and full of life. She followed her own path into acting, started a family with her husband Alex Smith, and became a mother to a daughter, Isabella, in 1998. For a while, life felt full and promising, but in 2010, Charlotte was diagnosed with ovarian cancer, the same disease that had taken her mother and grandmother, bringing a painful reminder of the hereditary risk the family had carried for generations. Pierce stayed close to her throughout her treatment, offering the same steady support he had once given Cassandra. Despite their best efforts, Charlotte's health worsened, and she passed away on June 28, 2013, at just 41, not long after her wedding. The loss hit him hard, and in public statements, he described his grief as something almost impossible to put into words. Those around him could see how deeply it affected him, though he continued to lean on his family and to find ways to honor Charlotte's life. From this profound loss, Pierce found a focus beyond his own sorrow. He became actively involved in raising awareness about ovarian cancer, supporting research and charities devoted to better treatments and, ultimately, a cure. It became a way to keep both Cassandra and Charlotte's memories alive, while also trying to make a difference for others facing the same struggle. The bond that broke. While Charlotte was battling her illness, Pierce's career was also going through a major shift. After 4 successful Bond films, the producers decided to take the series in a new direction and cast a younger actor, Daniel Craig, for the role. For Pierce, it stung. Bond had been such a defining chapter of his life and career, and having that change happen during a period when his personal world was already so fragile made it feel heavier than just a professional setback. Of course, it wasn't unusual by Hollywood standards, just business as usual, but the timing couldn't have been worse. Looking back, Pierce admitted that losing the role didn't come close to the heartbreak of losing Charlotte. Yet combined with everything else, it made those years feel particularly hard. He threw himself into work, and at times leaned on drinking to get through the long nights, the quiet of his home echoing with memories he couldn't shake. Through all of it, Keeley was a steady presence, quietly encouraging him to reconnect with something that had always brought him joy. Painting, a passion from his childhood in Ireland, long before fame or movie sets ever entered the picture.
You know, I could afford paints and brushes, even though I'd never painted, but I loved drawing. I bought all this art supplies and they all went into a cupboard.
Returning to art wasn't about accolades or career moves. It was about finding a way to process grief. His canvases often reflected the weight he was feeling, with dark, moody tones that were more about emotion than polish, more about honesty than perfection. Painting became less a hobby and more a lifeline, a private way to channel feelings he couldn't always put into words. In those quiet moments in front of the canvas, he found a form of resilience that didn't need to be flashy or visible. It was simply about taking small steps toward healing, one brushstroke at a time. The fires that followed. Just as Pierce was starting to feel like he might be finding some calm, life threw another curveball his way. In 2018, the wildfires that swept through Malibu left devastation in their path, destroying homes and displacing entire communities. Unfortunately, Pierce's property was among those affected, and much of what he owned, personal belongings, cherished mementos, and a significant portion of his artwork, was lost. The one thing he managed to salvage was a small sketch of Cassandra, drawn during the week they first met, a quiet but meaningful reminder of a happier time. The media quickly picked up the story, spinning it with dramatic headlines, but Pierce remained grounded. "Things burn," he said simply, speaking with the calm of someone who had endured far greater losses. "People don't come back. Let's keep perspective." It was a statement that captured his resilience, the understanding that material possessions, as painful as their loss can be, are ultimately temporary. Instead of dwelling on what was gone, he chose to rebuild thoughtfully. He moved into a smaller home closer to the water, favoring larger windows, open spaces, and natural light. Looking back on the experience in an interview, he said, "I've learned the world takes back everything eventually. You better enjoy the loan." It was a philosophy shaped by repeated loss, yes, but also by an enduring sense of gratitude for the life that remained and for the small joys that make it worth living. The body betrayals. As the years went on, the physical realities of life started to make themselves felt more clearly. By the time he turned 69, Pierce had suffered a back injury while filming that required surgery and months of rehabilitation. A reminder that even someone who had spent years running, jumping, and saving the world on screen isn't immune to the natural wear and tear of getting older. It was humbling, slowing him down in ways that didn't come easily to a man who had spent so much of his life moving at a fast, almost relentless pace.
You look absolutely stunning today.
Thank you.
And Pierce, you don't look too bad yourself.
Thank you so much. It's a wonderful evening.
At the same time, Keely was dealing with her own health challenges. She had been open about thyroid issues that affected her energy and weight, and as often happens, the tabloids were quick to seize on unflattering photos and harsh commentary. Pierce didn't stay quiet. He posted on social media expressing his love and support, saying, "I love every curve. She saved my life." It wasn't a grand sweeping statement, but it resonated with a lot of people. A simple, heartfelt way of standing up for someone he loved in the face of public criticism. Thinking about the process of aging, he once described it with a metaphor that stuck: a slow leak in the tires. You can still drive, but you just never go as fast as you used to. It's a simple, vivid way of acknowledging that life requires adjustments over time, without giving up on the things that matter. For Pierce, it wasn't about dwelling on what he could no longer do, but about finding a steadier, more thoughtful rhythm to life, one that still left room for passion, creativity, and love, just at a pace that made sense for the years he was living now. The set where he waits now. Today, Pierce seems to have found a rhythm that feels a lot more balanced, one that lets him continue working while also honoring a deep need for peace and quiet. He spends much of his time between Hawaii, drawn to the calming presence of the ocean, and Oregon, where the slower pace and natural beauty offer a restorative backdrop. He's become more selective about the roles he takes on, often choosing projects that keep him closer to home, and his recent film, The Thursday Murder Club, is a perfect example. In it, he plays a retired spy solving cold cases, with bingo nights standing in for high-stakes missions, a gentle nod to both his age and experience, and a subtle reminder of the enduring presence he brings to the screen. His mornings are simple, deliberate, and unhurried. He wakes early, makes coffee, takes the dogs for a walk, and spends time painting, a practice that has remained a crucial emotional outlet throughout his life. He occasionally smokes, a small personal choice in an otherwise disciplined routine. Some parts of his past are still too painful to confront directly, so he avoids films connected to his daughter, instead keeping her memory alive in the small rhythms of everyday life. Photos line his kitchen walls, and sometimes in the quiet of the morning, he talks to them softly, reflecting on the man he has become. In those moments of stillness, he finds both reassurance and resolve, a gentle reminder to keep going, carrying forward a life shaped by loss, resilience, and a hard-earned sense of calm. The regret he carries. Beneath his calm exterior, Pierce carries a quiet but persistent current of regret. He thinks often about choices he wishes he had made differently, especially around preventative measures that might have helped Charlotte. There are memories of times when work demanded his attention and conflicted with family needs, decisions that, in hindsight, weigh heavily on him. It's a form of survivor's guilt, the kind that quietly asks, "Why them and not me?" without offering any real answers. Therapy helped him develop ways to navigate his grief, but the ocean has always been, and remains, his truest solace. He swims regularly, not just for exercise, but as a ritual that blends physical effort with reflection, a way to confront both fragility and resilience at once. Around his neck, he wears a waterproof photo of Charlotte on a simple cord, a small personal ritual that keeps her close, even in the vastness of the water. For him, it's a quiet reminder that while life moves forward, the people we love continue to be part of it in the most intimate, enduring ways. The small joys that stick. Even in the midst of lingering grief, Pierce makes a conscious effort to nurture moments of joy. His sons, Dylan and Paris, are forging their own creative paths, and he quietly takes pride in their accomplishments. Dylan has pursued music, and Pierce loves sharing his son's songs with friends and family, a small but meaningful way to celebrate their bond. Paris, meanwhile, is a painter, creating vibrant murals, and Pierce keeps in close touch with both, FaceTiming regularly to share glimpses of his life in Hawaii and Oregon. His granddaughter, Isabella, Charlotte's daughter, has become a particular source of delight. He's introduced her to body surfing, passing along his love of the ocean, which has long served as his own refuge. She calls him Papa P, and in her laughter and curiosity, he sees echoes of her mother, a quiet, comforting reminder that life continues in new and unexpected ways. Beyond family, he remains engaged with fans, occasionally signing autographs as 007, often with a wink or a gentle reminder about civic responsibility. At home, he tends avocado trees to share with neighbors and hosts informal backyard movie nights during Oscar season, projecting films onto a bedsheet and handing out popcorn. He jokes that it's the only premiere where nobody judges your wrinkles. These simple pleasures, daily rituals, and moments of connection have become anchors in his life, gentle reminders that even after loss and hardship, laughter, love, and joy can still be found in the ordinary rhythms of everyday life. The letter he writes every year. Every year, Pierce observes a deeply personal ritual. On December 28th, the anniversary of Cassandra's death, he writes her a letter, a quiet chronicle of the year, almost like having a conversation with her memory. In it, he notes the small, tender details: who still remembers her laugh, which of her favorite songs he's heard playing in grocery stores, how many sunsets he's counted without her. He writes about the triumphs of their children and grandchildren, and also the little joys that sustain him through ordinary days. Once the letter is complete, he takes it to the beach, a space that has always felt sacred to him, and burns it. As the smoke rises and drifts on the ocean breeze, it becomes a symbolic act, sending his thoughts, his grief, and his love out into the world. He always signs it, "Your boy, Pierce," a quiet, poignant reminder of a love that endures. He says this ritual keeps him grounded, a necessary practice that allows him to remember without being consumed by grief. He has performed it for over 30 years, a testament not only to the depth of his devotion, but also to the way love can create a lasting, living connection, even across the boundaries of life and death. The mortality math. At 71, Pierce is deeply aware of the harsh arithmetic of loss. Cassandra was 39 when she passed. Charlotte was 41. Having outlived them both by decades, he carries not only survivor's guilt, but also a quiet, determined resolve to keep living. He tells friends that he intends to stick around as long as he can, a subtle act of defiance against the misfortune that has touched his family so profoundly. He has become deliberate in protecting his health. He's given up hard liquor, keeping red wine only for its potential benefits, and follows a daily regimen of vitamins and supplements. He calls it playing the long game against a stacked deck. It's a battle he pursues not just for himself, but for those he still loves, and in memory of those he has lost. He wants to witness more sunsets, celebrate milestones with his grandchildren, and savor quiet mornings with Keeley. Each day is approached with intention, a commitment to living fully, not just for himself, but for the people who matter most, and for the enduring legacy of those he has loved and lost. The last role he wants. Pierce Brosnan has played countless roles over the years, but these days he jokes that he wants to play a grandfather who refuses to die before the credits roll. A character who outlives the plot twist. Beneath the humor, though, lies a deeper desire to keep going, to continue defying the tragic narratives that have shaped his life. More seriously, he nurtures a profound artistic ambition to direct a film about grief. Not a glossy Hollywood tearjerker, but something raw, honest, and deeply human. He envisions casting unknown actors, shooting on Super 8 film, and making it freely available online, something accessible to anyone navigating loss. He's already written the script in longhand, keeping it alongside sketches of Cassandra's eyes. He plans to title the project Smoke, because grief, like smoke, never fully disappears. It lingers, changes the air around us, yet life continues despite it. Though financiers have offered support, he has declined, determined to keep the project intimate, personal, and uncompromised. For him, it's the opposite of a Bond premiere. Quiet, unassuming, and born entirely from love and loss. It's meant as a final artistic testament to the people who shaped him, a way of honoring their memory while creating something enduring and profoundly human. The man who stands up again. So how does Pierce Brosnan live now? Quietly, stubbornly, with paint under his nails and salt in his hair. He has lost a father, his first wife, a daughter, a home, and even an iconic role. And yet, every morning, he pours coffee for the woman who pulled him back from the brink. His life has become a testament to resilience, to the quiet courage it takes simply to keep going. If you see him walking along the beach, you won't see 007. You'll see a man who learned the hardest truth of all. Saving the world is easy. Saving the people you love, that's the mission impossible. He didn't get the Hollywood ending, and perhaps that's for the best. What he has now is quieter, yet far more profound. Another sunrise, another giggle from his granddaughter, another chance to say, "I love you," before the credits roll. In a town built on fantasy and spectacle, that might just be the bravest stunt of all. So, there you have it. What part of his journey stood out most to you? Let us know down in the comments section. Also, don't forget to like this post if you enjoyed it, and hit subscribe to stay updated on more stories like this.